Hello there, my friend. It's good to see you again. I hope that life is treating you well. But what do you say we jump right into our painting here? I've got a 14 by 18 canvas that I've covered with white and a little bit of linseed oil just to make it all nice and slick, and it's ready to be painted on. I'm painting over an old canvas. If you look really closely, you can see the texture from the painting underneath. Doesn't matter because we're going to do a fine painting on it anyway. If you look on my palette here, you can see the colors that I'm going to use for today. Let me get that situated just so you can see it. Starting over here, I've got cadmium yellow, and then I've got cadmium red light, titanium white, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, a new color today, sap green, and then right over here is not a tube color. It's not a color that you can buy in any store. This is just a mix of all the colors that I use, and we just call this a big old pile of mud. You can mix that with all the colors that you use, whatever colors you want to use. It really doesn't matter. You'll get your own mud pile eventually, and I think you'll enjoy it. What we do with this is we use this to mix other colors using it as a base color. And that way, if we have to mix something really dull, we can get there really quickly. Well, let's go ahead and start with the sky as we always do. And, well, as we always do, we're going to start with a 2-inch brush. And we're going to do something a little bit mistier today. I think that today we're going to start very light, which is going to be right in the middle. And there's going to be kind of a haze that's coming in from the sides. But right around the middle here, it's going to be pretty light. So for that, I think I'm just going to get a smidge of the blue, pull that out. Yeah. Just gently pull it out. Don't want too much of that. Yeah. Get that in the brush. And then I want a very light touch of alizarin in there. Alizarin crimson. Okay? And, I think I got too much. Look at that. It's okay to get a little bit too much. I'm going to get a touch of the cadmium yellow too, just a little bit. And that way I've got a nice little mud mix thing going on in here. Definitely want more blue though. More blue to it. This is going to be a very gray sky. Very gray, very, very gray. And we're going to come in... I'm going to get it eventually. Sometimes it takes a while to get the color just right. Especially if you're doing it this way. There. And just a touch of the alizarin crimson again. And then a touch more of the blue, and I think we'll be there. I just wanted to get a little bit of the cadmium yellow in there to make sure that our color looks just the way I want it to. That it looks unified. Unity is a big deal in painting. If you don't have unified color, your painting is going to look all weird. People are going to look at it cockeyed and go, what are you trying to do there? Well, let's go ahead now, and let's come in from the sides. We'll come in from both sides, just like this. And you know, my color is already looking pretty light. And this is kind of what I want. I don't want color that's too intense right now. Our sky is going to be very misty, very foggy. This is a very dreary day today. Someone decided he was going to go sunbathing, and then he got a rude awakening when he got outside. He opened the door, he had his trunks on, he had all of his suntanning oil, and then, well, as is its wont, nature had other ideas. Okay, let's get a little bit more ultramarine in there, a little bit of alizarin crimson. Okay, a little bit more blue on that, a little bit more blue, and then just a touch, the lightest touch of cadmium. There. Well, the cadmium yellow. If you're putting cadmium red in this, you might be in for a rude surprise of your own. Oh boy. I want this to be a lot more blue to the alizarin crimson. I tap the color to get all of it evenly distributed on my brush. If you look at the brush while you're tapping like this, it makes things more evenly distributed. Now, I'm going to come in from the sides again. From the sides, and then using crisscross strokes, X strokes like this, I'm going to come into the middle. Now at the bottom, the color is going to be a little stronger than it is over here in the middle. That's going to be where the horizon line is, because right here, right about there is where our horizon line is going to be. That color is going to be a little stronger. And we're going to exaggerate this a little bit, so let's go ahead and get some more blue in there. Actually, let's get a little bit of alizarin crimson too. I don't want to shortchange our sky. Our sky is going to be, well, the most delightful, dreary sky you could possibly want. Imagine that. A sky that's dreary but delightful. Oh, what a mess of contradictions. Alright, I think that might be great enough for us. So let's punch it up with a little bit more ultramarine. It's a fine line between dull and too dull, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's go in. There. Remember, crisscross strokes. And down here, get a little bit more of that color in there. There. And maybe, you know, you're doing stuff. Maybe the sky is a little bit more involved in here. I don't know. Whatever. It's all good, guys. You got this. Okay. That's gonna be a passable sky for us, I think, pretty much. Now let's go ahead. Well, I guess we could get a little bit more white in there, couldn't we? Yeah, let's go in with a little bit of white. I feel like we need a little bit of white going on in that middle section there. I think that might make things a little bit more interesting. So let's just pull out a little bit and give it the old taparoo, and then we'll just wave in some whites here. Yeah, wherever. It's a foggy sky, remember that. So wherever you want to put a little bit of white is good. Okay. There. Clouds are very free like that, and misty clouds are just as bad. There. If you ever get too much definition on something you want to mist it up, you can just give it a little bit of tap. There. Let's see. It's hard to see with the glare on it, but that looks decent. Okay. We don't want the clouds to have too much definition on this one because, you know, it is supposed to be misty. Now let's give it a little bit of a wave all the way across. Just to haze it up. There. If we want, we can go back into it later. You can always go back into your painting and repaint things if you don't like it. That's good. Seized by a little bit of inspiration today. I think I'm going to take a little bit of this blue color, pull it out. I got that. And now I'm going to get a little bit of the sap green that we just talked about earlier. And now I'm going to make sure that I have a little bit more ultramarine to sap green. And what I'm going to do here is create a turquoise color. There. Now, let's choose where our horizon line is going to be. Our horizon line is going to be right about here. Here. Yeah. Wait. There it is. Now, carefully drag your brush all the way across the canvas. Try to get it as horizontal as you can. An easier way of doing this that we didn't do today is to use a piece of masking tape and paint across that. But obviously that didn't happen. Okay. Now just haze it out a little bit. Because again, this is a pretty dreary piece. Might even want to get a little bit of alizarin crimson in there. Drag that across too. this down just to get rid of a lot of that. Okay, now that color is going to be extending all the way down here. But there's going to be a little bit of a shore over here. There's going to be a beach, so we don't want to ruin everything. We want to keep some of it. Keep some of it. And if you want, you can go back in. With a little bit of that color. Maybe you want to put some more turquoise in your sky. If you want a little bit more turquoise in your sky, go ahead. Just be sure you do this. And that might make things look a little bit more unified. Check that out, guys. Get right up against that line. Because like I say, this is a very misty picture. Okay. There. Now, when we go into the bucket, we have it filled with odorless turpentine. We do not use real turpentine. Real turpentine is just a little too hazardous these days. I prefer a turpentine or a turpenoid or a turpentine light that has a flash point of about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That way, it's much safer. And also, some of them may have an odor, some of them may not. I always recommend that you use your light turpentine with, well, some ventilation. At the bottom of my bucket here, I have a grating. I'm using a 5-gallon bucket. And I bang it on the edge after I wipe it off on the grating to get all the excess turpentine off. Now, what I'm going to do here is beat it off a little bit on the edge of my easel, and that gets a lot of the excess turpentine off of it. Now, got some paper towels and give it a good wipe down. And that way, your brush is dry, ready to go. But it's not over yet. We still got another brush we got to clean off. This one, baby. Another 2-inch brush. Those 2-inch brushes really are a godsend. If you're worried about your turpentine light or your odorless turpentine eating through the bucket that you use, a 5-gallon bucket or an industrial bucket like this can handle odorless turpentine. Now, some plastics will eat through, or odorless turpentine will eat through some plastics. But not a 5-gallon bucket. Okay, give that a little beat down, beat it off a little bit, and now let's wipe it off. That's how we do it, guys. Very quick, very easy. Now our brush is ready to use again. And God knows they're going to see a little bit of action. Now, close this up because you don't want to be huffing odorless turpentine all the time while you're painting. I'm going to take my 2-inch brush again, and I'm going to get a little bit more my sap green. Okay? Now, I want a little bit of cadmium yellow on this, and this is going to be a little crazy. That's right, I'm doing it. I will use a little bit of alizarin crimson too to dull it down. And then I'll get a little bit of this ultramarine just to shift it a little bit more toward the turquoise side of things. And then I'll get a little bit of this white. Okay. There. A little bit more. That's good. That's good. we're ready. Let's go ahead and right in here, put in a little bit of that color. All right, there. All the way across. Good. Oh man, this is getting crazy. Now it's looking like some deep, murky water, isn't it? A little bit. A little bit. Let's go ahead and right down here, we'll put in a little bit more blue. And we're going to use that same brush to put in that blue. And this is going to have kind of a deep turquoise looking color. There it is. And we'll just make it curve up the beach a little bit. It's kind of going this way, doing a little diagonal. Yeah. The waves here aren't really crashing around too much. It's a very soft day, but it's also not a very pleasant day. It's kind of a dreary day. No one's having any fun on the beach or anything like that. Everyone's all sad. But everyone's still going to the beach anyway, taking pictures because they like the look of those pretty turquoises and those pretty purples. Okay, let's set aside this brush for right now. And then at the bottom here, I think I'm going to put in a little bit of a ground color. And let's take some of our mud mix here that we don't see too much and throw in some alizarin crimson. Okay. We might even want to darken this down. To darken it down, add a little bit of the sap green. And a little bit of that sap green. Sap green is being a little bit tough today. It's a very firm color. Not that that's a bad thing. Usually we really enjoy firm colors. Just having a tough time working that one for a second. Get a little bit more of that alizarin crimson. We want this to be a dark one. We want this to be a really, really dark color. With maybe a little bit of blue in there too. Yeah, we'll get some of that in there. Good, good. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now with that, we're going to go in here and let's paint what's going to be the edge of the beach. And we're going to use just this side of this to illustrate this. There. Let's get a little bit more color on that. Okay. All right. Shape the wave. Shape the beach. Okay. That's pretty good. Now, I think what I want to do is I want to get out my palette knife for this one, because we got a whole lot of stuff that's happening on the beach, and I want to get more of this kind of color in here. So let's get some of the ultramarine, a little bit of that alizarin crimson, actually a lot of that alizarin crimson. Got a lot of stuff happening with alizarin crimson today. Even more alizarin crimson, if you believe that. Oh, that's crazy, right? Yeah, I know. You want to get something very red, but also let's punch it up with a little bit of orange or a little bit of cadmium yellow. That way, this won't be quite so quite so dark. It's going to be pretty dark regardless. Now, what you may want to do, if you got a lot of white on your picture, is you can go in with another knife and scrape some of that off. Let's get our paper towels for this. There they are. Sorry, I have to look around sometimes for my paper towels. The price you pay when you're a little messy. You look around, you can't find nothing. You have to be a real pack rat over the years, and then you realize, oh man, I know I got all this stuff, but I can't find any of it. What am I gonna do? Well, guess it's time to go get a new one. No, usually you just dig around, rooting around for stuff until you find it. Yeah, it's funny the way that looks on okay, we're ready to go in and throw in some darks here. So let's sit down that smaller palette knife and let's go ahead and just, smear it in. Get it right in that canvas all over this ground here, because this is the foreground. This is where some fun stuff is going to happen pretty soon. And we need to put in this dark here before we go ahead and get all the light stuff going on. Push it right into the canvas. Be a little careful when you're using your palette knife, because sometimes if you get too crazy, you can puncture the canvas. Now, canvases are pretty tough, so if you puncture a canvas, boy, let me tell you, that takes some doing. Alright. The bottom layer, where the beach is here, it's going to be pretty thick, huh? Yeah, I know. We're not going to overdo it, though. Are we overdoing it? I don't know. We probably are, but this whole shadow here, this shadow area, needs to be here. Come on, there it is. Ooh. There we go. Ooh. That's good, that's good. That's better. Okay, all right, for the next thing that we need to do, let's get out a fan brush. I got a fan brush here, and I'm just gonna wave it through the paint. Get kind of a lot of paint on here. Pull that out and wave it through. Now, what do I want to do here? Well, I'm gonna kind of just go across the canvas and do a little bit of a highlight back here just to define the background. There, over this way, there we go. I'm going to pull through that paint again, pull out a little more if I have to. That's totally fine. Get lots of paint on that fan brush. Now, what's going to happen is I'm kind of just going to go across the canvas whichever way we want, really. And remember that waves are kind of all over the place, so your brush needs to be all over the place. Don't be afraid to go in and get some more paint too, just to make sure that you've got some more. Okay. Now we're getting near. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen here is you're going to get up near the edge and you're going to define a little bit here. The waves are kind of crashing down, even if they are ever so small, against this area up here. Oops, get a little bit of white in there. Yeah, that can happen. That can happen. But But what we're going to do, pull out a little bit more paint, get it on the brush there. And there. Search for that line where you want it to go. And if you get a little bit of something you don't like, you can just pull it down. Like we'll pull it down here. Matter of fact, let's get a brush right here. And there. This is how we can do it. See that? Now over here, we're not going to have much of a wave, so right here, this is whatever. Over here, we can define wave a little bit more. So there. Let's clean off the brush here. Okay, now tap off the fan brush. It's got a lot of white on it, so it might need to be rinsed a couple of times. Get it off. And it doesn't need much, you can just wipe it off now. Okay. Now on this one, I think I made a mistake here. So what we're going to do, what we can do, is go on with a little bit of white and some of that sap and blue and alizarin crimson. We can get a little bit of something going here. I might actually want to thin this down a little bit. Yeah, I might want to thin it down. First I'm going to get my color just right. Alright. There. Ooh, there's a hair in there. Yeah, I can't get it right now. So that's just going to have to stay there. Wait, there it is. Ooh, you're a sneaky one, aren't you? Yeah, you go over there. Yeah. Let's get a little bit more white on that. A little bit more white. Good. Very good. Now, here's what I'm going to do. And give that the lightest touch of odorless turpentine to thin that down a little bit. And then that'll give me a little bit more leeway when I'm putting this color in. There. Good. I'm not quite getting the color that I want over on this side, so wave that in a little bit. Yeah. If you're not careful with a painting like this, you can become a mud mixer. You start mixing up a whole bunch of mud on the canvas because you're going at it a little too much. Well, solutions like this call for a little bit of white to brighten things up a little bit. There. That's better. Now, that wave is going to disappear against this little crack right here. And then we can clean off the brush again because it's a little dirty. Now we'll beat it off. And then get the old dry. Wipe it. There. Good. We've got a couple of large brushes here that we could clean off, but I think we still want this brush here because we do have to put in a couple more darks that we messed up a little bit. So get a little bit of alizarin crimson on that just to, I don't know, get it all loosened up and everything. And I'm going to throw that right in there. There. Good. Now, we can define this a little bit more. We don't want to define it so much that we lose the wave here. But when I get that color, that line that we can find up against it there. Okay. Now, I think that might be almost good. I'd feel better if I had more alizarin crimson defining this area right here. Good. Give me that line. There. Okay. And now finally, we'll go back in again. I know I'm going back in a lot here, but sometimes we have to go back into stuff. There's no shame if you have to. I want you to know that it's okay if you screw things up, because I screw things up too. If you mess up, it's all good. I always like to show you my mistakes so that you can learn from them just as much as I do. And, ooh, that needs a little bit more red, doesn't it? Yeah. That's the darkest color of all. It might help to push your brush up a little bit as you do this. There. That's good. Now let's clean this off. This brush is mighty dirty. All right, beat it off. And we might want to clean it off a little bit more. If you see a lot of color still on your brush, feel free to give it another rinse. did get a lot of alizarin crimson on it, so alizarin crimson likes to get on everything. It's one of those colors that takes on a mind of its own sometimes. Let's see. There. Don't lose everything. Make sure you got some green showing through there. There. And we can throw in some more blues and some of that sap green so we can get that turquoise back. There. Get it relatively dark if you want to put some more darks back in. You don't have to get it like super dark, but oops. Almost dropped my brush there. That's how fast I was moving. I was trying to move up on this handle a little bit so I wasn't choking up so high on the brush. Now let's go in. Just throw some stuff in there. There. And get real creative and maybe insert some more stuff out here too. Maybe over here. These are going to be real light, but just give it a light touch. There. That's good. Even over here, you might have a little bit of blue coming in. There. Maybe over here is a little bit of blue too. There. Maybe just throw something up against the white there. Sometimes I forget to talk a little bit because I get into it. You want the green to show up too, but you don't want to lose everything. That's not looking too bad. That's not looking too bad. I think though, I can, ooh, how brave do I want to be, do you think? How brave do I want to be? Well, let's go up in here and just give it a little something. Yeah, it's encroaching upon there. It's encroaching upon the darks. Yeah, we don't want to ruin all the darks here, so let's just leave it at that. Alright, let's clean the brush off again. The fan brush. The brush with which we've been making all of our waves happen. Or what little waves there are. What we're going to do now, I think, is we're going to get the palette knife back out right after we're done with this. Cleaning the brush off. Make sure that you wipe it against the grating, both sides. Do it several times if you have to. Give it a tap. And then beat it off. And wipe down the brush. Now, if you're going to beat your brush off, be sure that you're careful doing it because you don't want to get paint all over your living room or your bedroom or wherever you happen to be painting. We got the palette knife out. So let's go and get, well, I want some yellow. I think some yellow would be good here. You want to get more yellow than you think you're going to need on this. It's always good to get more paint than you think you're going to need. Now, I'm probably going to grab some of that. I probably could have added a little bit of something to that yellow when I started off. Now I got kind of an ochre color. I want more of a red color. Okay, Obviously, we need to get a little bit more red here. We're going to get a color that's going to be very, very red. Probably shockingly so. I got a lot of paint here. Get a little bit more, well, a lot more white. That was a big hunk of white, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. But we need to get a lot of white in here to make this work. And then I get a touch of the ultramarine here, because I don't want it to be too vibrant either. It seems like a conundrum here. Mixing up so many colors like this, saying I don't want them to get too intense. Using all the colors in the world, it seems like. Alright, I think we got a color that we can use. So let's go ahead, take this, and cut a roll. Well, that's a mighty big roll. It's still a mighty big roll. Well, looks like we're just using a big roll today. And we're going to pull this across, and we're just going to let it break, guys. We're going to let the paint break. All the way across, and let the paint break. Okay. That way it'll automatically create all kinds of interesting textures and stuff like you see on beaches and everything. It's just so much harder to create a beach like this by not using the paint break method than you ever think it would be. We could just use a flat color, but that seems less interesting than letting the paint break. Every time you run out of paint, go ahead and get a little bit more. It's okay. It's okay. Try not to lose too much of your edge there. If you lose your edge, you can go back in and we can paint it a little bit more. Okay? Right here, there. It's going to be kind of a hill right here where there's going to be a little bit of a spot for some grass and stuff. So when we get to that point, we're just going to keep doing this all over, and then we'll take care of that once we get there. Doesn't seem like it's worth our time to concentrate too hard. All right. Go ahead and cover some of this up. Sometimes my arm gets a little tired, so I have to put my palette down and relax for a second. Let's go ahead with the paint. And follow the lay of the land while you're doing this. You know, follow the curve of the hill. There's going to be, like I say, a hill right there. So you might not want to cover that. You might want to. Who knows? Okay. Now right in here, sometimes you need a light touch to do it. Sometimes you need a little bit of a light touch. We got a lot of color mixed up here, so we're going to be okay no matter what we do. I think this is showing up really well against the dark color that we laid in first. Be sure that you lay that dark color in first, because you have to put in the dark color first before you can put in the light color. Well, there's no rule that says you can't put in the dark color second, but it does make things a lot harder. And I want things to be a little easier. I don't want to work harder than I have to. That just doesn't make a lot of good sense to me. Does it make a lot of sense to you? It doesn't to me. What do we want here? We want a deep orange. Ooh, I know, deep orange. Now let's get some alizarin crimson in there. You want some cadmium yellow. and some alizarin crimson, roughly equal parts. And you want kind of a deep yellow, not even yellow, more like a pumpkin orange going on, kind of autumn harvest orange. Ooh, that's looking nice. That's great. Okay. That's looking a little bright, isn't it? Well, if it's looking a little bright, you can take a very tiny amount of your ultramarine, your blue, and mix that together. And that way, it isn't quite so bright. Usually I like to keep things a little brighter though, because we are filming these things on camera under bright lights. So it really helps your painting to have colors, or at least it helps my painting while you're watching it to see brighter colors than might necessarily be there. That's good. Now let's go in here, and all the way from over here to about right here, we're gonna craft a hill. Just drag your palette knife and let the paint break, just like we were letting the paint break on that other color. Right there. There. Don't be afraid to get more. Okay. We're using the same shadowy base color for both of these. Okay. Alright. Okay. Drag it. Helps to get a little bit of that action going. Might even help you to make sounds like anything that helps you paint a little better. If it helps you to make weird sound effects like that, it's okay. You know, you can do whatever you want when you paint. If you want to make weird sounds, go right for it. No one's going to tell you can't. Because guess what? You make those kinds of sounds when you're painting, people are going to think you're a genius. They won't think you're, well, they will think you're crazy, but artists are expected to be a little crazy. Well, I'm no exception, I suppose. Or at least I have my moments. Alright. There. So we got a little bit of a mound going there. Cool. Now what I'm going to do, what I think I'm going to do, is I'm going to clean off both these knives, because I feel like I've got a lot of stuff going on here. What I might do is go in here and just smooth some of this out. I don't want to lose everything that I've done, but I also want it to, I don't know, not look so uniform, if that makes any sense at all. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. There. Yeah, that's okay. Let's wipe off a little bit of that color, because we might want to reuse it at some point, but otherwise, let's clean off the knives. In fact, guess what? We got a whole cleaning section coming up right now, because we gotta get these knives all cleaned up. Excuse me, they are filthy, man. Have myself a little case of the burps. Alright, let's clean off the brushes now. While I'm cleaning off my brushes, I'm thinking about what I want to do next to this painting. I have an idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to try it. Okay, beat it off. And then give the old wipe down. That's how we do it, guys. That brush is clean, ready to use. We haven't had too much action from the 1-inch brushes yet. I think we're going to be getting those out soon, right after we clean off this second brush. I have a good idea of what I'm going to do next on this painting. There's some grassy masses that I have to insert very soon. That brush looks clean. Okay, I'm going to give the old beat down, beat it off, and now we'll wipe it off. You start to see a little bit of color from that on there. Well, that happens sometimes when you clean off your brushes. It's all good. Let's see. I think I'm going to get out my small palette knife for this one. And there's going to be some grass right in here, just a little bit, not much. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to scratch out some areas of paint where I think some of that grass might be. Okay. Maybe this one all the way back there, up front. And, you know, it's coming off the canvas a little bit. Yeah. It's going all the way out here. Maybe there's a patch in there. Yeah, that's good. Now, when you scratch in all these marks and stuff, be sure that you leave enough space so that the color that you put down earlier is still shining through. We're going to put down a dark now first. And this dark is going to be pretty low key, pretty boring, as all dark colors tend to be. Let's get some sap green here, okay, and mix it up with this color that we have over in the middle of the palette. This is going to be kind of a loose color, it feels like, just based on the oiliness of the sap green. We'll get a little bit of ultramarine now, and then we'll get a little bit of alizarin crimson. Okay. And I think this is going to be the basis for most of our colors here, except for maybe the color in the back. Color in the back of the painting is going to need to be a little bit more subdued. I'm going to have a little bit more sap green and ultramarine to the alizarin crimson, because this is supposed to be a green color we're talking about, right? Right. Okay. So what we want to do here, well, I don't want the paint to be too thick, so let's set aside the palette knife for right now and get out the liner brush. I think the liner brush might be a good choice for this. Now, let's go in, and wherever you see one of your brushes, here, might help to get the paint a little looser by getting some turpentine on it. That's better. Okay. Every time it starts to get a little whiter, a little lighter, go get some more paint. Okay. This is kind of tedious, but this is a good way to get some of that foliage in there. You could have just scratched out the whole area and done this, but I really didn't want to lose too much of what I'd done. And if you look closely, you can see the sap green in here and how decent it looks. Oh boy. You can tell the paint's thick when things don't mix quite, or things don't come off the brush quite as well. That might be a sign to get a little bit more of that odorless turpentine in your brush to get this paint a little looser so that it comes off a little bit more easily. And over here. Good. There. Now I got ourselves some weeds. Little grassy looking things. Just weeds popping all over here. That's cool. That's cool. That's fun. That's fun. Let's I'm gonna put another one right in there. There. Nice dark one. That's cool. I'm gonna put a couple more dark ones right there, there. Good. Right here, here. Oh, I know, I'm going crazy. Well, that's probably about good for that right now. Ooh, let's clean off the liner brush. I was wondering what to do next, and that seems like the most obvious thing to do. Let's go ahead and... It doesn't really need much to clean it off. It's a very small brush, you can see. Let's give it a light beat off. I want to give it too hard one. It's a very delicate brush. It needs to be treated gently. Let me tear off that and get a clean piece going. All right, give it the wipe down there. Cool. Cool, cool. Okay. Liner brush. You've done yeoman's service. What brush do I want? What brush do I want? What brush do I want? A 1-inch brush. Now, when I use my brushes like this, my 2-inch and my 1-inch brush, I use natural hair brushes. I do not use synthetic brushes. The reason for that is because the organic or the natural hairs are a little easier to paint with. They don't separate quite as easily. And that way, when I paint, you don't see lots and lots of streaks. Sometimes you might, but not often. And they don't show up very well. All right, let's go into this color here and just tap that into the brush. Now, what I think I'm going to do here, decide where it wants to be, and then I'm going to give it a tap right about there. Press firm into the canvas right about there. There. If that's not dark enough, we can go in with our knife. I said we can go in with our knife, which I should clean off, because we have a lot more darkness that we have to throw in there. Come on, there it goes. Put on the palette knife for a second and set aside this brush so we can clean things off. Oh wait, there's my paper towels. Okay, and that's how we do it, guys. Now. Now, what you can do here, scrape off where you just put that paint in so that it's got a very thin layer. And that way, when we go ahead and tap it in, the color should be a little darker. Although, there's that white paint underneath to contend with. Okay. Tap all that dark color back in, and we're going to make sure the bristles bend up. There. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. Now, over in the background there's going to be some more of this. But it's going to be a little harder to see it. So, it's also quite small, so we're going to do something a little different here. And I'm going to get out a filbert brush. And we're going to give the canvas little kisses in the background here. Right about And we want the bristles to bend so they're going down a little bit. That way it looks like there's more stuff happening. And all kinds of random little things just kind of happen when you do this. We're going to cut off some of the foliage when we get done with it. And there's going to be another one like right there. It's a tiny one. It's a tiny one. There. And there's going to be like one right there, and then... Okay. That's looking pretty decent. So, we're going to have to get a little wild here. And what I want to do is to get some of that yellow with the color that I made. And I'm going to tap it into the brush, this filbert brush, because we're going to do the background first and just get that out of the way. Then we want to get some sap green here. Get that into the mix. In fact, there's going to be quite a bit of sap green on this, because we want that green to really show. Okay. It's okay to get a little bit more yellow than you think you need, because once you start tapping and all this color is evenly distributed, okay, once all that color is evenly distributed and it goes against this dark color, it's just going to become a lot darker. Alright, so we're going to just tap where we think things should go. And we're going to let the chips fall where they may. Just give it a little something along all that. Got one going right there. There. The light's going to be coming like right down this way, so there's going to be a little bit more of a shadow. We're going to get a different brush now, because this filbert is done doing its job. I want to make sure to clean this off, because when you're not painting stuff like this, you're not using big brushes all the time, filberts are actually really useful. And this is like one of my main brushes. So it would be a shame for a bunch of paint to dry on it. You want to be sure to clean off all your brushes. Make sure that you don't have any paint drying on them, because if paint dries on your brushes, it's going to ruin them. And you can kind of rehabilitate them, but it is hard. Let's clean it off and wipe her down. Doesn't that feel good? Yeah, that feels nice. I like that. The sounds and smells of oil painting, everyone. What we might do with the background is tap it down a little bit. Okay. Just want to tap that into the 1-inch brush. I'm going to get a little bit more cadmium yellow to the sap green. Look at that. Got a lot of paint in those bristles. More paint than I think I need. I tap it into the brush and then I wipe it. And then it gives me that nice edge, like it looks like it swooped back its hair. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do this. And then I'm going to do it the other way. There. And I'm not going to do anything else. That's it. And then over here, I don't want to do anything else. I'm just going to leave it. Just going to leave it. So if I do anything else, I'm going to ruin it. Oh boy. Yeah, be careful doing that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my liner brush again. And this time, I'm going to put my palette knife to work. Get just a little bit more yellow, but also a little bit of that sap green. Notice how things are getting a lot more yellow as we go forward. And maybe let's get a little bit more of the sap green. Just a little bit though. There. Now, I'll tell you what, let's put that right there, because we might want it later. Now the liner brush is going to get back to work again, and we want some odorless turpentine to thin this out. Now what we're going to do is just be very, very careful, and we're going to highlight these. Put the highlights where you think they should go. You know, maybe they're going every which way, maybe, oh, maybe this one needs to go right there, and maybe you got one that needs to go right there. Yeah, that's good. Maybe you got one that needs to go this way, one that needs to go there. So those pieces of grass look like they're pretty well grown. Yeah, they're pretty well grown, all right. You can go in and play around with it a little bit, maybe. There. Don't have to get too wild on this one. That's good. That's good. Now, let's think about what we want to do with some of these plants out here in the water, because we got a little bit of something we could do, right? Besides cleaning off this brush, of course. As a matter of fact, we might want to clean off the other one. Looks like there might still be some paint on it. Okay. Have that. Now, I want a fresh paper towel for this to wipe off the old brush. And wipe off the liner brush. Now over here, we're just going to pull that down slightly, very lightly. Knock off some of that other paint. Pull that down a little bit. Pull that down. Oops. I'm a real butterfingers today, aren't I? Yeah, a little bit. Let's pull down some of that stuff out there, right there. Cool. Okay, just, you just rub your palette knife right into that white paint, like that. All right. Now, over here. Just give it the star treatment. Make it look like water's waving a little bit there. And we'll do the same thing over this one. We can turn the palette over if we want. Scrape off a little bit of excess paint if we get any in there. Now, what I believe I want to do is get this 1-inch brush, because I'm gonna just clean it off. because I want to do a little trick here with the 1-inch brush. I'm going to clean off the other one too. Okay, now let's beat them off. Okay, beat the other one off. And we'll give them a wipe off. One at a time. Let's not do them both at the same time. Yeah, I know. I'm goofy like that. I'm goofy. Okay. Now let's just give a wave there. Here, turn the brush on the side. And just like that. Ooh, that's nice. Okay. Now, way back in the distance there, we're going to do kind of the same thing, guys. We're going to do kind of the same thing. Just going to, tell you what, knock off any paint that I might have on the brush there. There's not all that much because I didn't really do anything yet, other than, you know, easing those reflections. And it is kind of fascinating the way you can just pull the paint down and wipe it to the side, and you have automatic reflections. Wipe it down, paint it to the side. But don't wipe it to the side until... Now I'm going to do this out here. There. I'm going to get my brush, hold on to my palette knife, and just gently take that to the side. Very good, very good. I believe now would be a good time to clean off the palette knife. Let me use one of these old rags. I don't want to take off a new one quite yet. I feel like I'm wasting paper towels at this point. It's not a good feeling. No. Alright, the liner brush is going to see a little bit more work today because we're going to go in here with a little bit of white, and we're going to get some of that ultramarine and sap green and titanium white. We want to create sort of that color that we're seeing off in the distance there. To get that, we need a little bit more sap green to the ultramarine here. Let me check to make sure that that's a good color. How's that going to look? Well, we might want to add a little bit of white to that, just to make sure it's not too dark. Don't want it to be too dark out there. Don't want it to be too dark. Alright, that's probably about good, so let's go ahead and throw that down in there. Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. Create something that looks a little bit like ripples right there. Clean off the liner brush. Now, let's take our liner brush into that dark paint, featuring that dark color from earlier. Get a little bit of alizarin crimson. A lot of alizarin crimson here. Now, with that maroon color, it's a very maroon color, we're going to go back in here, and truth be told, you might want to even add a little bit of that terpenoid light, or that odorless turpentine, and go in here, this color, and just kind of suggest things. Make it a little darker as you go. we're just gonna make like the waves are kind of moving in here, and see. Yeah, it's kind of goofy, but I like to make those sounds like that. Alright, now, there. Now we're going to go up right here. Just kind of make it quiver a little bit while you're doing it. Yeah. You don't have to get real perfect about it. Let's get some more odorless turpentine on this one. More. There. Now let's go up in here. There. And just to curb some of that alizarin crimson that we were playing with there. And this will make it stand out a little bit as we finish up with the painting here. Alright. Well, I think it's time to get out the liner brush again, because we got some water lines that we have to lay down here. And don't mind me if I just let my palette sit on the floor here for a little bit. Like I say, my arm gets kind of tired sometimes from holding it for so long. But we are going to dip the liner brush and a little bit of the odorless turpentine and get the white paint a little more liquid. We don't want it to become too liquid because then it just becomes a big mess. But we want it to get kind of liquid. And I've wiped off my palette a little bit here just so you guys can see. Alright, there's a little hair there. There's always a little hair. I can't seem to stop getting hairs all over everything I do. It's because of this long hair that I have that keeps happening. Anyway, pull out some of the paint there. And ooh, that's getting a little colorful. I don't know. I want something a little bit more white. Yeah, let's rinse off some of that paint. Sometimes when you do a lot of painting like this, you get colors that contaminate white. That's getting a little thick. We need to loosen that up a little bit. Get a little bit of the odorless turpentine, dip it in there. We might want even more. There. And that's starting to become real liquidy. Yeah, that's more like it. Now run the brush through that, get it all covered up. And now go to the edge where the water is meeting the shore. And just go against the line, against the edge where the wave is meeting the shore. And this will give us a little bit more of a sense that, you know, we're looking at water here. Alright, here we go. Get that a little bit more liquid. Maybe if I turn my brush like this, you guys can see it more. You can see it a little bit more. Ooh, the reflection on the paint there is making it a little bit more challenging for me. Here. Right here. I think that's about right. It's hard to see from this angle. There. If you need to add more odorless turpentine to your paint to get it a little bit more liquidy, go ahead. There. It should look something like that. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to do kind of the same thing over on the other side, right about here, where all this is meeting the waves out in the blue. I know, out in the blue. It's a funny way of putting it. We're just gonna kind of draw some little wave lines here that suggest, well, I don't know, maybe the waves are coming in and out. Because, you know, waves they really do move any which way they want. This is one of those scenes from northern Michigan where I like to go to a lot that has a weird kind of look to it sometimes, and we can just pull some of this back out in here. Why not? There. That's good. And don't forget to pull some of the white up in around here too, just to break up some of the monotony and make it look like we got little doohickeys going all which ways, making it look more like water. There's a way that I could have done this a little bit more effectively, I think, where I could have pulled the reflection of the blue down into this portion, but I'm not going to gripe about it too much because the way it's looking right now is actually not that bad. Sometimes if you lay your brush on its side like this, you can get some interesting things happening. There. This is a really colorful piece. I like the way that it's turned out despite all the foolishness of all these bright colors and stuff. Okay, we'll just pull some stuff out here, why not? Just maybe add a couple whites here and there, like maybe one out here and one out here. Yeah, I know. Getting real nuts with it now. Throw one out here too. We've already added a couple against the little shorelines up against these plants here, but I'll just put them wherever. There. And something doesn't look all that great, you can always blend it out. You can pull some of the other stuff in there too. Why not? There. Yeah, we're getting colors everywhere. That looks pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I like that. Now, one last thing I think I really want to do in here, where all this foliage is, in the foreground, it's looking a little, I don't know. It's just looking a little dull, so I'm just going to go in with just yellow. I know, it's crazy, right? I'm going to get a lot of that odorless turpentine on that yellow, and then I'm going to just go over what I've done to make that look a little bit more vibrant. And we're at the point where we might become a mud mixer. You got to be careful. If you become a mud mixer, you see yourself putting mud in there, be sure you eventually, you don't want every single blade there, every single piece of foliage to be absolutely vibrant. But you don't want to be dull mud either. So every so often, get a little bit more and go in there again. And then things will get a little brighter all over again. See, that looks cool. What I could do too is I could add a little bit of dark to the foreground landmass here, because the dark that I was using, I don't know how great it is. It looks okay. I feel like there's not enough separation, and that could be good, that could be bad. And here, I don't know how much I like it against the other ground that I was doing. The one back here with all the sand and everything. The sand that we kind of just built like a mountain. Looking back, I kind of wish that I had just put that in with a regular old brush, but hey, who am I to admit mistakes like that? Okay, clean off your liner brush like that. Let's clean off again. And now, beat it off. Good. Now let's wipe it on give the old wipe off. I think I want to just take a little bit of that alizarin crimson there with some of this. Hold on, let me grab this properly instead of like a fool. Hold on. There's a hair in there. Come on, there's a hair in my alizarin crimson too. Yeah, I'll get it later. I'll find it. I had to clean off my palette a little bit in between shots because it was getting a little dirty, and you know, I don't like it when it gets so dirty that I can't do things anymore. Don't worry, all the paint's over here now, but I want to get something a little fresher. And to get really dark paint, paint, you gotta go in with something a little fresher. So I'm getting all fresh colors here. I'm getting my ultramarine, getting my alizarin crimson, I'm getting my ultramarine blue. And I'm gonna have quite a bit of, well, I found the hair. There's the culprit. Get out of here. Go away. No one wants you here. Stupid hair. Stupid hairs. Always getting in my way. Always getting in my way. I want to make kind of a very reddish orange color. Yeah, right about that is what I want here. And I want to make sure that it's darker than the purple. And maybe I could add a little bit of the ultramarine to make sure that happens. Let's see, is that darker, do you think? Well, I think that's a little darker. I think that's a little darker indeed. So let's go ahead and just separate some of this foreground here. And we won't go overboard here. We just want to add little flares here and there all around this. Make it look mottled. Maybe, like, you don't want to lose everything, you know? So just go around all the spaces. And, you know, just put it wherever. Wherever you think is good. Just a little bit of shadow there to make it look more interesting. Okay. Maybe over here too. A little bit of foreground for you. And over here too. Yeah. Some of that color in there. Make it look a little darker so that it pops against the yellow. There. That way it doesn't look quite so the same. That's better. Is there any place else you think that I should put this? What do you think? What do you think? I think there might be someplace I could put this color. I think there's someplace I could put it, like right here. Yeah, that was a good spot. That was a good spot too. I don't know, if you picked that one, you guessed right, didn't you? Yeah. I don't know. When I do these paintings, I just like to go at it and see what happens, guys. You can even go along the edge of the blades here and make things pop a little bit more. Maybe you want to, I don't know, cover the base of them a little bit. Maybe you want to just try to trace that yellow, make it pop a little bit more. Whatever you want. I don't want to go overboard, but I feel like I'm going to go overboard pretty soon if I don't stop. You know what they say. It takes two people to paint a picture, one to paint and another person to tell them when to stop. But we are going to go on with maybe a little bit of this ultramarine here and just a smidge of that cadmium yellow. We're going to do a real dark turquoise color. We're not going to fool around with these things for too much longer here. All right. So we got this, and let's make it a little bit more liquid. We got a little bit of white, some ultramarine, and some cadmium yellow. And we got ourselves a nice little turquoise here. Now, here's what we do. Go right up to this line here. Now we just kind of finesse it. There. Now maybe it looks like there's a little bit more separation than there was. There. We can even, I don't know, play with the white a little bit and throw it in there too. Why not? Throw a little bit of white over here. You know, they're waves. They're free. They got that free spirit vibe about them. You can put another over here too. Why not? Maybe I want to make sure that this wave is kind of suggesting that it's coming over this way. Maybe. I don't know. There. Okay. Well, I'll have to leave you now, unfortunately. Thank you for watching. And until next time, with love from me to you, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.